the Roth versus traditional. Plus, on the traditional side, you take all those taxes you save and you invest that somewhere else. And you have both of those two accounts versus just the Roth with taxes included. And you would save so much in taxes by contributing to the traditional. The traditional works.
Welcome to the Physician Family Financial Advisors podcast, where physician moms and dads like you can turn today's worries about taxes and investing into all the money you need for retirement and college.
Hello, physician moms and dads. I'm Nate Reineke, certified financial planner and primary
And I'm Ben Utley, certified financial planner and service team leader here at Physician Family. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Ben. 2025. And I actually, this might be the first or second episode in 2025, but it's definitely the first episode.
And it's definitely the first episode of my snazzy new background. So if you're on YouTube, you can see the snazzy background. For everybody else, it's blue and white.
Nice. Okay, so we have bookended this podcast with two good listener questions. I'm going to start with the first one. This is from Rich again. So Rich is a loyal listener, family medicine physician in New York. So I'm going to read the full question. So Rich said, just a quick question about 529 accounts. I've saved enough in my four boys' 529 accounts to cover their undergraduate education. Plan to continue contributing to their 529 accounts every year for the rest of my life. All four boys plan to go to medical school. They will need to cover their medical school expenses, and that's a very achievable goal if they become physicians. The extra money I put into their 529 accounts would not be used for medical school expenses. However, the reasoning behind this plan is to help them with their kids' educational expenses in the future. I'd receive a tax deduction in New York for up to $10,000 of 529 money contributed annually. The 529 accounts would have the ability to grow over decades. Hopefully, by the time they have kids who are ready to go to college, that money would have grown enough to help pay for their schooling. The only downsides I can think of would be if they don't have kids, or if too much money is saved. And then he noted that, obviously you can put some money, move money to Roth IRAs. So his question is, what do you think about this plan to pass down educational wealth? Am I missing anything with this line of thinking?
Okay. Whose ball?
Well, I know you have an answer, and I think you replied directly to Rich. I don't think there's anything wrong with this plan.
So our answer is no. Nothing wrong with it.
Pretty much no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason this would be helpful is, of course, if your children plan to pay for their kids' college. So then that's pretty much just as good as paying for their own college. We all know it's difficult to save. So
I think they call this a Dynasty 529. Yeah, I don't see any problem with it. Sounds good.
Tax-free growth
like
for
millennia.
Many years. Yeah. Okay, next question is from a cardiologist in Florida. If a target date fund adjusts the asset allocation over time, is that the same as having a robo-advisor?
Yeah, more or less, depending on, I'd say for like most people. Wouldn't be the case in a taxable account, really. I mean, I guess if you had a target date fund in a taxable account and you had a robo-advisor, they would function the same, and that you start off with a bunch of risk and you'd wind up with less risk over time. But the main difference, I think, is the type of bonds that you use. So far, we don't have a target date fund that has tax-exempt bonds in it, but that'd be the main difference. Typically, your robo-advisors are more sensitive to your tax status. And so in a taxable account, the robo-advisor would use tax-exempt bonds rather than taxable bonds like U.S. government bonds and corporate bonds.
Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of a different answer. I think that they can be, and that usually they are, right? Because the robo-advisors, kind of the way that they're advertised to you is that they take more than just whatever your target date is, and they might take your risk tolerance into play, your tax status into play. But the reality is that if you're invested like most people, your risk tolerance and how far you are away from your goal,
this is
kind of
like,
go hand in hand.
I don't know, the word robo-advisor is so nondescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a robo-investment thing, because it's really about the robo part is the investing part. Like, we use a quote unquote robo-advisor for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of our clients' assets. In fact, I use one too, but is that thing an advisor? Hell no.
Right.
It keeps my portfolio in balance, and it harvests tax losses, but is it going to help me figure out when to retire? No. Is it going to help me figure out what to do with my extra money? No.
Right. Yeah, agreed. I think that it
Excuse me, sneeze.
It takes investing. No worries. It takes investing and kind of boils it down to a lot less than what I guess you have no idea what the money's for, what investing is really about. It's just rebalancing.
That's kind of like calling it like a robo doctor, something that takes in your symptoms and dispenses a pill. Because there's so much more to it than to being a doctor than that, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So kind of, I guess, is the answer. Okay. Family medicine.
Vermont. Oh, I love Vermont. I've been.
Have you been?
Maple syrup and cold nights and cabins and old timey homes and colorful foliage and gosh, a lot of snow. Love Vermont.
Yeah.
Green Mountain Country.
I love the idea of it. I've never been. Okay, they asked, can I delay applying for Medicare past age 65? My children are covered under my insurance that I have through work, and if I'm on Medicare, they will get kicked off. I want to keep them on until they finish college when I'm 68. Answer is yes, you can delay applying for Medicare. I believe, Ben, the rule is that your employer has to be of certain size.
Yeah, it's got to be what they consider a large employer. So.
So the answer is no for self-employed. And then there's a special rule. I'm going to read it so I don't get it wrong. If you're receiving Social Security benefits, you'll automatically be enrolled in Medicare Part A and B at 65. So you'll have to actively go in there and decline coverage for Part B. But you must keep Part A.
Yeah, receiving Social Security the trick benefits. Is whether or not you're getting those benefits, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's right. And if your kids are in college and you're working, you're probably not taking Social Security yet. You're delaying Social Security as well. So the answer is yes, there is a way. For most physicians, they work at a hospital and there's plenty of employees. Family medicine doctor in Alaska. Is this like the third family medicine doctor?
I think so. This is starting to look a little bit like the cold climate conversation we're having here today. I guess with the exception of Florida, but yeah, Alaska. Talk about. I've been to Alaska. It's beautiful. It's like more northwest. And the thing I remember about being in Alaska is like even in the summer, if you're standing in the sun, it's glorious and warm. But the moment you stand in the shade of a tree, it feels all like Alaska again. You're freezing your buns off.
Yeah. If I was
that and lots of salmon. There's fish everywhere you look. Even in the mountains, they're just swimming by.
Right. So they said, I'm considering going part-time and I may not have enough income to max out my 401k at the same time. My HR people say I cannot defer 100% of my paycheck to my 401k and that it's capped at 85% of income. Why is that?
Yeah, payroll tax,
FICA tax, Ben.
And other junk you got to pay for. SUTA, FUTA, unemployment tax, all those good things you got to pay. Yeah, I mean, FICA is 7.65% of what you make. So that right there that's half of the portion they won't let you put in. So
Yeah. So another way to put this is deferring money doesn't avoid all taxes.
That's right.
Still have
But I mean, I'm thinking here, like,
yeah,
let's say that they want to defer even $30,000. Well, if they deferred 75% of their pay, they'd be making $40,000 a year as a doc. I mean, have you ever seen that?
That's actually difficult to do.
No, I've never seen it either.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe super part-time or something. But
yeah.
I'd be interested in why
take a
they're
chill
working.
pill. That's what I'd say. You know, just 85% of your pay as your deductions is good enough.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Obviously, if you can get away with making $30,000-$40,000 a year, probably
like you
well
might not need to save.
And so,
and you know, if you're making $40,000, the deferral does like next to nothing for you, right?
That's true too. Yeah. Maybe this is a secondary.
This is so ironic
or something, but yeah. Okay. All right, we have another listener question. It's I'm going to read the whole thing again. This is from a pathologist. And I didn't get a state, but we're going to answer it anyways. So here, they gave a little bit of
is this the question?
Said I'm a
2025. This is the financial question every physician should get an answer to. Is that it?
That's right. Isn't that funny? We get this question mostly from young doctors. And I feel like it's like, I hear you, I know you've answered this question, but what about
there should be somewhere in Washington D.C. there should be a statue, a tall statue with the answer to this question and the answer to it, like chiseled in stone, covered with bronze, and lit up with these huge floodlights for all to see, so that no one can ever forget the answer to this question. But let's have the question.
Yeah. Okay, I'm a pathologist. Married, one physician, family, couple with 2 kids. Our ages are both 37 years old. Income is $600,000 to $700,000 per year. We max out both our 401ks, get a profit sharing match up to the IRS max of $69,000. So that was last year. In my 401k. My wife gets a match of about $3,000 as well. We both do backdoor Roth IRAs and invest all of our HSA funds. We put approximately $150,000 a year in a brokerage account. Our net worth is $1.1 million, with about half in brokerage accounts and half in our retirement accounts. Seems like over time, our brokerage account will take over our retirement accounts. We do not have any other debt besides our mortgage. We have 529s with $70,000 and $60,000 in them for both kids to contribute to those yearly. Here's our question. Should we pay off our house or our mortgage of about $460,000 with a rate of 3.25%? We just don't like debt. Second question is, me and my wife both max out our 401ks with all Roth contributions. Should we be doing traditional instead?
And here, ladies and gentlemen, is the question for the millennia. Roth versus regular.
That's right. I think we have answered this question many times. And Benny, funny enough, I think I answered this question 3 times.
Like on the job? You know, I was out, I was out Christmas shopping 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was passing by, and they're holiday shoppers, they're toting their bags in the mall. And as I was walking by, I heard them asking each other, should I put it in traditional or should I put it in Roth? I got on a bus. I got on a bus to go downtown. Yeah. I heard the bus driver like talking to a friend of his on the cell phone while we're waiting to get on. He was talking about Roth versus traditional. And in fact, I was in my backyard and I could see these birds flying south for the winter. And I could swear that I heard them saying Roth versus regular, Roth versus regular. And the answer, my friends, is drum roll, please.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Traditional. Yeah. So people keep asking, so we'll keep answering. I think the reason this question continues to be asked is that for the average person, Roth tends to be better, and physicians, you just ain't average. you make
You're what
$600 to
we call one
$700,000
percenters,
a year.
globally 0.1 percenters. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so you're going to pay a ton in tax to get that money in that Roth. And when you look at this, it's very simple. You look at this online and you see, the blogosphere answering this question, especially ones that are directed at doctors. They'll show you how the growth of a traditional versus the growth of a Roth and how it's taxed. But that's not the whole story. The whole story would be the Roth versus traditional, plus on the traditional side, you take all those taxes you save and you invest that somewhere else. And you have both of those two accounts versus just the Roth with taxes included. And you would save so much in taxes by contributing to the traditional. The traditional works. They look at it like it's hard to make that comparison because they're already contributing money elsewhere to a taxable account as well. But that would be the real way to compare.
I'm beginning to think instead of listener questions, we should take listener answers, because I know that our listeners who are hearing this, I know they can answer this question. They're driving along in their cars, they're sitting on their treadmill, they're doing their thing, they're walking the dog, and they're going, Ben's going to say traditional. And then he's going to say, traditional versus Roth is really a decision about when do you want to pay your taxes? Do you want to pay your taxes now? Or do you want to pay your taxes in retirement? That really has everything to do with what your tax rate is now versus later. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're making like $700,000 a year and you're in some regular old state that has an income tax, you are paying at the highest income tax rate right now that you will probably ever pay in your life. And when you retire, you'll probably be in the 22 or 24% tax bracket. So let me break it down. All right. Let's say that you put away $50,000 in your traditional IRA today. All right. Let's say you're in the 37% bracket and you're headed to the 22% bracket in retirement. That's 15 percentage points in spread. Okay. So you put your $50,000 away. This year you save $7,500. Excuse me. Yeah. You put your $50,000 away. This year you save, what's 37% of 50,000? Quick math, like $19,000. All right. And then when you take it out, let's say it's 22% of that same amount. We're just going to discount growth for a minute. Okay. 22% of that. So 22% of that 50,000 is like 10 grand, right? So that's $9,000. It is permanent tax savings. Permanent tax savings.
I think, so how you said they're driving along, they're walking on their treadmill, and they said, Ben's going to say traditional. Well, I'm pretty sure they're thinking Nate's going to say
because you just said plan. Wait, you said plan.
So in your,
you didn't say you're going to say that because I don't have my kombucha today.
Yeah. So in your plan, if you were to look in the analysis of a plan, any plan, but a plan that we write, you'd see the answer to this question. And most people without a plan, they assume that they're going to spend a lot of money in retirement and their tax rate won't be all that much lower. But when they do a real plan and they see their tax rate will be lower, you can do this math much easier.
Yeah.
It's just very straightforward.
And here's why you won't spend a bunch of money in retirement. You won't have a mortgage, right? That's probably your biggest expense.
That's right.
You won't be feeding children, probably, right? You won't be paying for college. You won't be saving for college. You won't need life insurance. You won't be paying that premium. You won't be paying that Horkin disability insurance premium, And by then you might have figured out that keeping up with the Joneses is just a bad idea. So you won't be spending that much anyway. So, and then you'll have some withdrawals, especially if you have a taxable account. You can take money out of a taxable account. You're only paying capital gains and only on part of it. So your tax bill could be pretty low.
Think about this actual listener. Okay. They save
Wait, he said like 150 in their taxable and that their accounts are about half and half. So that's looking like 300K.
Well, a lot of that I think he gets from work, but just quick. I mean, yeah. So IRA, I mean, it's at least it's 200, 250.
They're like saving a small Missouri home every year.
That's right. And so even with all those expenses that you just said, if all you did in retirement was just not save, it's half. And then add in all those things that you will naturally pay off. They have another question here. We want to pay off our mortgage.
Well, I have never been able to talk a physician out of paying off their mortgage. In 30 years of doing this, 25 of that being directly working with docs, they always say, well, what mortgage should I get? 15 versus 30. I'm like, you should get to 15. They're like, no, I want the flexibility. I'll get to 30. I'm like, okay, here we go again. I've seen this movie, right? They get to 30. They pay it like a 15, but they get the 30-year rate, right? Which is higher than the 15 typically. I mean, I've just seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah. So this is the
you need a plan. You need to know what's so here's the real question for 2025 and the millennia. This is the question that should be in Washington D.C. like with gold foil, gold leaf, right? The question is, what's the money for? What's the money for? Like, where's it going to go? Why are you making it? Why are you earning it? Why are you taking time away from your family? Why did you become a physician in the first place? Why? What's the money for? Right? And when you can answer that question, then all these other questions just magically answer themselves. If you can focus on the purpose, the meaning, the reason behind your life, it'll be totally obvious what you do with this money. And for that, you need a, Nate, say it. Plan. A P to the L to the A to the N, a plan. Yes.
If you don't ask and answer those questions, you're stuck with just what's the math. And in their guts, these physicians know they want to get rid of these mortgages. But the math says don't do it. Well, I say, who cares what the math says? Math doesn't know who you are as a person. It doesn't know about your goals. It doesn't know about your children. It doesn't know any of those why questions. And so what? So you give up a couple percentage points that you feel secure and you can take off from work anytime you want because you're saving $300,000 a year. It's the once you've won the race, you can quit running. And with this type of question, I get it all the time. And look, I'm a math guy too. I get sucked into this.
You're worse than a math guy. You're an econ guy. Ladies and gentlemen, he's an econ major.
Right.
And I have something for you. It's a little treat. The very first employee I ever had, Brett, if you're listening, hi. The very first employee I ever had was an econ major. And do you know what one of the first calculations he ever did was? The should I pay off my mortgage calculation? Because I told him, I'm thinking about paying off my mortgage. He's like, that's ridiculous. I was like, really? Young Padawan learner? And so he pulls out the spreadsheet and it's like, yep. And I think I ran that spreadsheet 6 or 7 times before I paid off my 3.25% or 2.75% mortgage. So,
I remember when you asked me that, you said, what do you think? This was, 7 years ago. And I said, I don't know, if you had a big pile of money on the table, or I said, if you had a paid off home, would you take a mortgage out at 3.25% right now if it was available? And you're like, no. That sounds stupid. That sounds risky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's your answer. And so I can get out of that mode for a while once I know people's why, and I just know you well enough to know that it would be a freeing feeling. So pay it off.
Yeah, pay it off.
You save
you're way more than on track for retirement and college and trips to the moon in large rocket ships. I mean, you're going to have some money left over. Pay off your mortgage if it feels right. Pay that sucker off. It's not like you're squeaking by to save for college, right? It's not like the guy's going to be like borrowing to send his kids to the junior college, right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Yep.
So.
Okay.
So the last word I have for everyone today is tradition. Traditional. Get your traditional 401k on. Okay. So
that's right.
Welcome to 2025. We are still financial advisors. We still love serving doctors. We love putting the power, purpose, and meaning behind money for everyone so that you can know exactly what you need to be doing all the time. Okay. And so we're still taking clients. And if you're interested in working with us, go to physicianfamily.com and click the big Get Started button. Okay. If you're not sure, if you're just timid, you're just kind of eking your way into 2025 and you're not sure, why don't you take our retirement well check? You can find it on the homepage at physicianfamily.com or go to physicianfamily.com/quiz. And until next time, guys, you're not just making a living, you are making a life.
Thank you for listening to the Physician Family Financial Advisors podcast. Are you getting all the tax breaks you really deserve? To find out, get your copy of the Overtaxed Doctors Retirement Investing Checklist, available at physicianfamily.com/go. This show is for educational purposes only and is not personalized advice. Consult your tax advisor before taking action. All investments involve risk of loss. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Read show notes for full disclosure.